Hi everyone and welcome to my talk today, 6 ways to make the most of your website. So I am going to dive straight in because I have got quite a lot to cover and I want to cover as much as I can in as short a space as I can so that you've all got something to take away with you today. So thank you for joining me on my talk. Let's get started. So very quickly, just an outline so you know what we're going to cover. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself. We're just going to look at very quickly why your website is important, what are your goals, and then we're going to look at the 6 ways to make the most of your website. So how to create website content or content creation, some notes on website design, website speed, SEO, search engine optimization, social media, measuring success right at the end, and close. That's a wrap. Okay, so who am I? A little bit about me first of all. I'm very much known as a busy bee over here in Mid Wales. Energetic and passionate about a lot of things, but it kind of all comes down to small business at the end of the day. So I set up Gwir Cameron Web with my partner Emlyn, and we are a bilingual website design and digital marketing company based in Aberystwyth, Mid Wales. Bilingual because we're both fluent Welsh speakers, and quite a lot of the businesses that we work with want Welsh and English websites. So we work with a range of clients across Wales and the UK, primarily on website builds. That's our main focus in the business, but also on SEO, digital marketing, social media, WordPress training, etc. I absolutely love my job because I am my own boss, which is great, and it's hugely varied. You know, we work for so many different small businesses across the country. It's absolutely brilliant. So a little bit of a motto with me is work hard, play hard. I do work quite long hours, and a lot of people often say to me, "You're always in the office." Well, that might be, but last year I was in Canada for a month. So the picture here on the bottom left is me and Emlyn in Canada on our road trip. And then next door to that, in the high vis, I also help organise some local events here in town, such as the Christmas Lights Switch On and a summer fair. So quite busy, long days, but well worth it. Outside of work, I like to go to a lot of different conferences. I got the Digital Women Conference there last year that I went to. I'm also a business mentor for Business Wales, and I'm a role model for Big Ideas Wales as well. So I get to visit schools and colleges and basically inspire children to sort of look away from the traditional career path, which is great. You know, it's exactly what I wish I'd have known at the age of 16 and before going to university and doing a master's in something completely unrelated to what I do now. And then outside of work, yeah, I like to travel. I'm a member of 2 choirs. I'm quite busy, but it's all worth it at the end of the day when you can be your own boss. So that's a little bit about me. Let's get started then. So why is your website important? So I'm just going to cover this very briefly for those of you who are maybe thinking of setting up a business and you're part of the conference over these next few days. Why is your website important? Well, it's the first point of contact for your customers, okay? So your website's going to act as a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week online shop window for your business. It doesn't matter what you're doing, if you're just if you're selling products or if you're informing people of your services, your website is always there working for you in the background. It increases your exposure and it grows your reach all the time. You know, it's there doing the job even when you're at home, tucked up in bed, enjoying a good night's kip. So without a website, you will be losing business. I've put may, but you will be losing business. And the same goes for a poor website as well. So this is one of the points I'm going to talk about is website design. Because a poor website will put people off from looking on your website. It could be something as simple as the navigation. It's frustrating, it's hard for people to navigate. You know, it could be something like the contrast of the colours. They can't read the text clearly. Things like that will put people off. So without a website, or with a poor looking website, a poor navigation website, a poor working website, you will be losing business. And a website helps you gain that competitive advantage. Now, I get a lot of clients say to me, but I already do well enough on Pinterest or Facebook, etc. Great, and that is absolutely brilliant, which is why you'll find a lot of pages will offer one-page websites or brochure websites, as we call them. And the reason we recommend these is that it adds a level of professionalism. It adds credibility and trust in your business. So even if someone has found you on a social media platform, the likelihood is they will then go off and research you a little bit to make sure that you are actually who you say you are, and that, you know, they can feel comfortable and confident in giving you money. So I'm not saying go out there and get a huge website and spend loads of money on it, because you can just do a one-page website as well, and it does tick the box for this bullet point, you know, add a level of professionalism, credibility and trust to your business. Another reason why a website is important is because it answers your customer questions. So you could go as simply as preempting the questions and having an FAQ page, so a frequently asked questions page. But otherwise, it answers questions such as what you do, what do you sell, how can you help your customer, when are you open, what's your contact information, where are you based. Your website has all of this information that will help your customers and your visitors create an informed decision before they come to you. One of the things that I often say is when we get an inquiry through our website for a website quote, half the work has already been done by our website. The fact that they've already sent an inquiry means they've gone through the website enough to feel comfortable to ask us for a price. So then the work for us just comes in giving a price and our honest opinion about what they're asking for. So your website is there to answer your customer questions. And finally, your website is also there to communicate your brand values and your unique selling points. So depending on what this might be, it could be something like being environmentally friendly or offering excellent customer service. Your website needs to get these points across to people, okay? And a crucial point right at the very end, your website is never complete, okay? You can pack away everything, put it, you know, it goes live and just let it run. But the thing is, you need to actually give it a bit of love and attention every now and again, which is where this talk comes in, I guess. But there's always something you can do. There's something you can improve, there's something you can tweak, there's something you can add, something you can remove. So it's never a finished product. It's just something that you've got to nurture as your business grows. So some possibly dry statistics, but each one tells a really important story. 94% of first impressions are related to the design of your website. 70% of businesses lack a call to action on their homepage. Very important. 75% of credibility in a brand comes from a good website design. So you might have an amazing product, but if you have an awful website design or a website that was designed 15 years ago, that will affect the credibility of your brand. 74% of users are more likely to return to a mobile-friendly website. I think statistics in 2019 were about 50-50. 50% of people actually just use mobiles to search on websites now. 39% of people will stop engaging if images take too long to load. So we'll be talking about site speed shortly. But all of those statistics are basically, I wanted to put them in here to show you how important your website is when it comes to, you know, trying to get business for your business from your website. Things like, you know, your design. You really need to look at latest design trends and what works well in terms of accessibility, navigation, ease of use, all these different things. Because from there we can see how important those first impressions really are. So they're all things to bear in mind and things that would hopefully help shape the rest of the journey today, but also shape what you're going to do with your website in the future, or if you haven't got a website, how you're going to approach it in the first place. So before we get on to the 6 ways to make the most of your website, let's just have a very quick look at your website goals. So I think this will come up quite a lot in terms of goals across social media and, you know, marketing digitally in general. But it is just as important for your website as well. So what is it you want your website to do? What is its job going to be? So I've got a couple of examples here. You might want your website just to advertise your business. So you want people to have a look on there and get in touch with you straight away. You might want it just to provide information to people. You might have a shop, so you might be selling items on there, and that's where you want the focus of your sales to be. You might want it for just a portal where people can get in touch with you. And you might also want to use it so that people can know what's going on in your business. Especially important, I think, given recent months where people have invariably been going online to find out, is my local shop open? Are they open during coronavirus pandemic? Are they doing deliveries? Are they open for appointments? Have they got different opening hours? There's loads of different things that your website should and could and hopefully will be doing. But you need to decide on what these goals are. What is it you want your website to do, and what is its job? So pencil those down and have a think about that, because I think that will really affect the rest of the things that we're going to talk about, and possibly, hopefully, affect how you look at your website afterwards as well. Is it doing what you want it to do, and is it doing its job? So leading on from your website goals, you're going to be creating your content. So one of the things I would always say is that now your content needs to link in with those goals that you've just thought of. There's no point having content on your website that isn't helping with those goals or what you want your website to be doing. It's just going to be a waste of your time and energy. So to create your content, this is going to be something I think that's going to come up over the whole 5 days. Who is your audience and what do they want to know? So identify your target audience and write content that is useful to them. Consider their needs, their wants, their interests, and their hobbies. So what are they asking? What do they want to know from you? What do they want to read about? And there's loads of different ways that you can do this with content. You can do it in tutorials, you can do it in blogs, you could do it on social media, stories, things like that. You could also use testimonials to show other people how you're doing these things. You could put up videos where you're talking about your services and how you can help someone. So there's loads of different ways that you can answer those questions. What do they want to know? So we've got a couple of examples here that might help sort of give you an idea as to what we mean here. But essentially they all link through to the goals that we were talking about earlier. So for example, my audience includes local businesses interested in ways to save money. So you might want to add a few blog posts. How can you save money? Is it money on your utility bills in the office? Is it money on your expenses? Loads of different things. Once you've got your audience, your target audience in mind and your goals, that's when you can really start to create good quality content that will help with your website. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, I am here live in the chat below, so feel free to ask me any questions or leave any comments, and I'll try and reply as quickly as I can to you. But let's get started then on the 6 ways to make the most of your website. So we've got website design first. Okay, so I am going to try and go through this very quickly just to keep within the time. So this isn't like a definitive list, but it's kind of just my main points that I would always say whenever I'm doing audits for clients or I've got a new client and they want to talk about their website. These are the main points that I would always come up with. So use plenty of white space. White space is great because one of the things it does is makes your content more readable. It isn't getting lost in loads of images, it's not getting lost in a big bulk of text. You're also not squashing things too much. So according to Crazy Egg, it can actually increase, the use of white space can actually increase user retention by 20%. So another thing that white space is really good for and why I like it with design is it also creates a fresh, modern, open website design almost by itself. Just by adding those extra spaces, leaving plenty of space on the sides, it just creates more of that modern feel that website trends are currently going towards. And it can often help with brand consistency as well. So always make sure that your call to actions, I've put attractive, but I think maybe what I mean is obvious. So for example, you might have a little blurb that says, we're selling all of our products online, you can visit our shop. But what I would recommend is you put the visit our shop in a button or something where it pops out. So someone quickly scanning that website can see these little call to actions. And if they're not going to read the blurb or read the text, they can just click on it and go straight to where you want them to go. Hyperlink differentiation. So if you are using hyperlinks on the website, which is something I would recommend, come to my SEO talk during this conference as well. I'll be talking a bit more about this. But what you should do is differentiate what a hyperlink is. So for example, on our website, my text colour is this dark grey, whereas my hyperlinks are all a light blue. So it's the contrasting blue that I've got for the brand. But then anyone who's looking at a blog piece can see, there's 3 or 4 different hyperlinks here. It could be a hyperlink to another page on my website, but it could also be a page off the website, just sort of adding a little bit of authority or maybe some statistics or something to the blog that I've written. So it's always good with website design is to differentiate the hyperlinks from the text. Use bullet points for key information, but don't use too many. Google like it, but they don't like it too much. They like to see text that's formatted, so things like we are going to talk about in a minute, headings and paragraphs and bullet points. So Google will recognise bullet points as key information, the snappy, short information that you want your customer to get. If you use it too much, there will be a concern that you're not adding quality content around it. But if you can use them, maybe once in a blog, use a couple of bullet points. Use images. There's plenty of stock photography out there now. It's not all the same sort of stuffy corporate stuff as it used to be years and years ago. You can definitely find things that will fit within your brand, the look and feel that you're going for. If you're using Canva, then the Pro version, there's a huge amount of stock imagery and videos there. I'd highly recommend. And another thing with website design is to keep your page design consistent. So often the homepage will be quite different, and that's absolutely fine. But you have all the other pages, so you probably have an about page, services, contact, etc. Try and make that design look consistent so people are comfortable on the website and they know where they are. If they look too different, there could be, oh gosh, have I gone off onto a different website, and a bit of uncertainty, but you want people to feel like they're in a safe space when they're exploring your website. Make sure that your website design is responsive and mobile friendly. So we've sort of touched on that a little bit, but it is super, super important. So much so that if you are doing a search on a mobile phone, Google will rank the mobile friendly websites first on there. So if you haven't got a mobile friendly website at the moment, then I would definitely look at upgrading to one. Most website designers, so I would recommend you ask them, most will include it in the price because it is something that is integral to website design now. So definitely ask and make sure that you're not paying extra for that. Another thing that you can do just to sort of help the user journey and the user experience, find and fix 404 errors. So a 404 error is basically where you've got a broken link. So you might have linked a few years ago from a blog to one of your pages on the website, but you've since removed that page. So you then have a broken link, and when someone clicks on it, it'll say error 404. So find and fix those just to sort of make sure that your user experience isn't being hampered on the website. Let visitors scroll your homepage. So this is something that I'm quite passionate about, I suppose. I get a lot of clients say to me, oh, I don't scroll, I don't want people to scroll. But actually I think that we're quite used to scrolling now. We scroll constantly on Facebook and Twitter and other social media platforms. We're used to searching, we're used to scrolling with our fingers on the mouse, you know. So let visitors do this on your homepage. But what I always say is to make a visitor journey. So when they land on the homepage, the most important things that you want to get across are first. And as they go down, you can tell them a bit about yourself or about the business. Go down again, maybe advertise your services. As you go down again, maybe have a sign-up form to a newsletter. But what you're doing is creating a journey and a funnel. So you're hoping that at each section, they're going to click further into your website. And that's the aim of the game. And by the end, if they haven't, perhaps they're just not interested. But perhaps the homepage isn't working well enough and it's not getting across those points that you want. So let the visitor scroll your homepage. Don't have it hugely long, but get all those main points across from your website, the main content pillars of your website. And finally, when it comes to website design, please make sure that you keep your navigation easy. So we would always recommend that you 3 to 4 clicks to get to the deepest level of content. If you can get it less than that, brilliant. But what you should need to do is just make sure that it's logical and intuitive. I would recommend that you ask a family member or a friend or a business colleague, print out your menu and say, you know, does this make sense to you? Is this, if you were trying to get to this page, would you do it through these different ways? And ask them, because I think it's very different when you're in the business all the time yourself. It's quite easy to forget that there's, if you don't know anything about it, how would you get to that certain place? So definitely ask for help from friends and family or business colleagues. Also, if you're part of any groups on Facebook, there's so many friendly groups out there, ask them as well. I'm sure people will be more than happy to help. Okay, so let's have a look at site speed. Excuse me. How fast is your website? So 83% of people expect a website to load in 3 seconds or less, which seems crazy, like 3 seconds is nothing. On the other hand, I don't think I wait 3 seconds at all. Especially on my mobile, I have even less patience on my mobile and I will be clicking back. If that page doesn't load straight away, I'm already gone. I've gone somewhere else. So a slow website will be costing you customers. However, we also know, because they told us, speed is definitely a ranking factor when it comes to your search engine optimization as well. So yes, a slow website will be costing you customers, so it's good to have one anyway because of that. It's also good to have one because of SEO. But if you're in a rural area, like we are, it's also good to have one because of people on slower internet connections. So optimizing your website as much as possible will help with those issues, because at the end of the day, you don't want to be this guy who can't be bothered to wait for the website to load, said anyone who was on a slow website in 2020. So speed issues tend to come from things like large images, complex code. It could be even the server that your website is on. If it's a shared server, is there too much on there? Is there a lot on there taking up the bandwidth and the speed and the size and things like that? So have a look at a few different things. What I will do is I'll pop some tools in the comments below here and give you some websites that you can test your site speed on. And they normally flag up things like you've got a few images that are really big. So you can crunch them, make them a bit smaller. What we normally recommend is about 1 meg or less for an image, especially if you're quite an image heavy website as well. Because you have to bear in mind, every time someone's loading your website, if you've got an image that's 5 megs and their internet is only 2 megs, it's going to take a long time for that image to download. Okay, so SEO. Now, I am going to go through this very, very quickly. I'm cautious of time, but also I have got another talk about SEO tips as well. So what I've put here are my top tips. So if you're going to take anything away from SEO, take these tips away. But if you have time, then join my other talk as well. So this is quite a chunky one, the header tags. So if you haven't heard of header tags before, then I would definitely recommend Googling them, because I'm not going to explain it very well in the time that I have. But what you basically need to be doing with any content you have on your website, so pages with a lot of content or blog posts, is making use of the header tags. And what a header tag basically does is it tells Google what's important on that page. So a H1 tag will always be your title. Google will recognize that as the main focus of that page is the title of that page. So for example, I've got a blog post, what is SEO? So Google will say, right, this is what we're talking about, what is SEO? Below that, I might have a little bit of an introduction, and then I might put, for example, as my second header, let's look at SEO. It's a really bad example. But then I would mark that as a H2. So it's not as important as the H1, because there should only ever be one H1 anyway. But Google can see, right, this is the next important thing that this topic or this blog or this page is talking about. So you have H1 through to 6, and you should basically create a hierarchy within your content based on those. It just informs Google a bit more about the content you've got on your website. Other top tips for search engine optimization is to use interesting meta descriptions. You could also look at images, making sure you've got the sizes right for the speed. Adding descriptions to the images, and also alt tags as well. So anyone who is looking at the website but are perhaps not able to read it, and they've got software that reads the website out to them, will have alt tags. It's good for accessibility. But also, Google can't read an image, so the alt tags and descriptions are really important to Google because it tells them what that image is. Another thing that I would highly recommend with SEO is to write down your keywords and phrases. So back in the old days of SEO, we used to have, I think it was called like black hat tactics. and where basically you could hide loads of keywords in the background of your website or loads of different dodgy things. And the more keywords you had, the more likely you were to be higher than someone else on a search engine. Gone are the days of that. You have to be not clever, but you have to be actually helping your customers now rather than trying to rank for certain keywords. So Google is constantly looking for quality content. It's looking for expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. It's looking for all of these things. And the only way you can do that is by creating content. So write down your keywords and write down your key phrases and make sure you get them in your content, but not in a spammy way. You want to be making sure that it's in a natural way, more subtle than just talking about, for example, website design in Aberystwyth, because that would be really weird. I wouldn't write a blog about website design in Aberystwyth because it would make no sense. So you have to think of different ways to get that in, but in a quality content way. And then I say this about absolutely everything, whether it's on social media or websites, review often. So I'm saying review everything often, review your keywords, your key phrases. Your business evolves quite a lot from when you first start up to years down the line. And in terms of your content, is the content still correct for your audience? Has your audience changed over the past couple of years? You can get rid of blog posts or pages that don't fit. We've just gone through a huge overhaul of our website because our service has changed. They've changed slowly over the few years, but we realised at the end of last year that actually the website wasn't working for us at all because it wasn't answering questions that we wanted our customers to be asking. So review often, but don't change too much too often. So if you're going on your website constantly and you're constantly tweaking and changing your keywords and key phrases, your alt tags, things like that, Google will think that you're basically trying to play a game a little bit with the algorithms. So be a bit more careful. Check it out a lot on analytics. Are the changes and tweaks doing what you wanted it to do? In terms of blogs and things like that, go for that as often as you want, but be careful when it comes to tweaking things for SEO reasons. As I said, I've flown through this on SEO, so either join my other talk, or I'm sure there are plenty of others talking about SEO over the few days as well. Right then, so integrating social media. As we know, people spend a lot of time on social media. A lot of conversation happens there. But what you want it to be doing is actually converting on your website. So all of the energy that you're putting in, energy and time, all of that you're putting in on social media, you need that to convert onto your website. So basically you're wanting to make sure that everything you do over there on social media is making it worthwhile when people land on your website. So take a moment to think about your social media posts. Do any of them actually lead people to your website? Are you linking the two? Are you telling people to go to your website to look at your services, to look at your case studies, your blogs, to find out your opening hours? I'm not saying to always direct people to the website, but there needs to be a healthy link between the two, because all of the time and energy you're putting into social media, if you're trying to get these conversions on the website in terms of sales or inquiries, then there needs to be a healthy balance between the two of them. And likewise, does your website point people towards social media, because that's where you build up your brand loyalty. So it's a balance, but you have to make sure that they're both working together. Okay, so website security. This is quite an important one when it comes to making the most of your website as well. There are sort of two key aspects here to making sure that your website is secure. So the first aspect would be depending on what platform you're using. So we specialise and concentrate mostly on WordPress. There are other platforms available, of course, so we've got things like Squarespace and Wix. I don't exactly know how they work because I've never used them, so I'm just going to be talking about my experience here with WordPress. But what we talk about in terms of security here is making sure that the software is always up to date, things like your plugins, your themes, the core software, and making sure that you're always on the latest security updates as well. So that's going to reduce things like hacking, broken links and things like that in terms of perhaps talking to a payment tool, for example. And the second aspect to website security is making sure that you have an SSL certificate on your website. So that basically means that you go from HTTP to HTTPS. Now, an SSL certificate means that it stops anyone from listening in on your website. So without one, people could be looking at what information is being sent through your website in terms of perhaps contact forms, any membership information, so usernames, passwords, and even credit card information. So it's super important to make sure that you've got this SSL certificate, okay? Now, hosting providers should be giving you this for free. The majority of them do. If someone wants to charge you for it, ask them why. You know, is it just a case of admin time, or is it something they're going to be charging you every year? And if that is the case, I would recommend looking elsewhere, because honestly, so many hosting providers do this for free now. It's not something you should be paying for. It's also really important when it comes to your SEO as well. Google is starting to rank people based on the security level that they've got on their website here with the SSL certificate. Okay, so we're nearing the end. I've gone slightly over my time. So measuring success, you know, we need to make sure that all of this hard work that you've put into your website actually pays off. So how do you know that your website is working well for you? We use Google Analytics here, but there are other tools available. I just prefer Google. I find it really simple and easy, and I can also get the data I want quickly on it as well. So the importance of measuring success, as I've said, you need to know that the work you're putting in pays off. But likewise, if you are doing these little tweaks and changes that we've talked about, you need to see that this is making a good effect on your website and not a bad effect. There's lots of tools that can help with things like this, but you also need to sort of basically decide on what it is you want to know. So for example, I want to know the bounce rate of a website. I'll talk about that in a moment. I want to know where people come from, because I advertise with different people. So are my visitors coming from those advertisers? I want to know how they track through my website. So do they land on my homepage, and then which pages do they go to next? So what are my popular pages? And I want to know if they convert. I want to know if they send me an inquiry. So what is the percentage of people that actually convert on my website and do a conversion? So I've already got my 3 or 4 key things. So when I go into Google Analytics, which just collects huge amounts of data, I know the few things that I want to look at, and that's where I concentrate my efforts. So when I am doing changes on my website in terms of SEO or design, I want to make sure that it doesn't affect those metrics that I'm looking at within Google Analytics. Bounce rate, I'll just cover very, very quickly. Bounce rate basically means the percentage of people that very quickly land and then jump off your website. So it can happen for loads and loads of different reasons. So for example, you might have had a social media post, and you might have said, look at my amazing product, but the link is wrong and it just goes to the shop rather than that particular product. So if someone clicks the link, they're going to go, that's not what I wanted, and they're going to go back. So your bounce rate will get high on that page. So perhaps the home page, people are clicking on it expecting one thing and not getting it, and that could be why the bounce rate is high. So a good bounce rate is normally anything below 40% is good bounce rate. Anything above that, you need to do a little bit of work, figure out what it is, why people are bouncing off. You know, is the description of your website different to what actually happens when people land on it? Like I said, there's loads of different things. But it's important at the end of the day to measure all this success just for justification for all your time and energy, basically. Cool. Okay, so, and that is it. So I know I've talked very, very quickly. I can tell because I'm really thirsty. I've talked really quickly. I've covered quite a lot in 30 minutes. I really hope that you took something away from today, even if it's just one little thing to help you make the most or, you know, a little bit more of your website, then that is great. If you have any questions, I will have been here answering away below, but do also feel free to get in touch with me either on the company account or my professional account as well. So Gwyr Cambrian Web or Kerry GCW. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to talk more in depth about any of these points, or if you just want to pick my brain, go for it. I'm absolutely happy for you to do that. Thank you once again for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed.